Movie camera opening hook. They thought he was just a janitor, a quiet, worn-out single dad pushing a mop down the prison hallways. But when the cell doors burst open and a gang of inmates lunged toward him with sharpened spoons and fury in their eyes, no one expected what happened next. By the time the guards arrived, 5 men were on the floor, groaning in pain, and the janitor stood tall, eyes calm, heart steady. No one knew, the man they'd just tried to kill once led one of the most feared and respected units in the U.S. military, Delta Force. If that gave you chills already, hit that like button, because what you're about to hear will change how you see quiet heroes forever. And don't forget to subscribe, because this is the story of redemption, sacrifice, and a man who found his purpose again when the world had forgotten his name. Mark Dawson used to be a ghost, the kind of man who lived in the shadows of classified missions, doing the impossible for his country. For 15 years, he served in Delta Force, the elite of the elite. He'd rescued hostages, taken bullets for brothers, and buried friends whose names never made it to the news. But war doesn't end when the mission's over. It follows you home. When Mark came back, there was no parade, no salute, no family waiting at the airport. His wife had left 2 years earlier, unable to handle the silence, the nightmares, and the man who had become more soldier than husband. She left him their son, Caleb, just 10 years old, a boy with his father's quiet eyes but none of his scars. Mark took a job where no one asked questions, janitor at the state prison. Every night, he cleaned up after men society had given up on. He didn't talk much, just did his job, kept his head down, and saved every dollar for his son's dream, a scholarship to study engineering. But prison is a place where weakness gets eaten alive. And Mark's silence, his calm, looked like weakness. The inmates whispered, laughed, and plotted. One man in particular, Rico, Red Eye, Martez, a gang leader serving life, took offense to the janitor's quiet confidence. He wanted to make an example out of him. That night, Mark was mopping near cell block D when the power suddenly cut out. The emergency lights flickered, and in the orange glow, he saw shadows move. 4 men stepped out of the darkness, homemade blades in hand. "Old man," Rico sneered, "you think you better than us? Think you can look us in the eye and not bow?" Mark said nothing, just kept his hands on the mop handle, calm, steady. Then Rico lunged. In less than 3 seconds, the mop clattered, a wrist snapped, and a man twice Mark's size hit the floor with a scream. Another came from behind. Mark spun, used his shoulder, slammed the man into the wall, and disarmed him in one motion that looked more like instinct than thought. The other 2 froze, eyes wide. Guards ran in, alarms blaring, and what they saw left them speechless. 4 inmates down, the janitor untouched. Afterward, the warden demanded answers. "Who are you, Dawson?" Mark just said, "Just a man doing his job." But word spread like wildfire. The prison cameras told the truth, moves too precise, too fast for any normal man. A retired corrections officer recognized them immediately. "That's Delta Force combat technique," he whispered. When Caleb came to visit a few days later, he found his father sitting quietly in the visitor's room, sipping coffee, looking like nothing had happened. "Dad," Caleb asked softly, "why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" Mark smiled faintly. "Son, it's not about who I was. It's about who I am now. Some battles you fight out there," he nodded toward the world outside, "but the hardest ones, you fight in here." He placed a hand over his heart. Rico's gang never came near him again. In fact, over the next few months, something unexpected happened. The same men who'd once mocked him started to listen. Mark never preached, never boasted. But when a young inmate named Trevor asked him for advice one night, he shared something simple. "You can't clean up your past," Mark said, wringing out his mop. "But you can start cleaning what's right in front of you." Soon, half the block started showing up early to help him mop floors, fix broken tables, paint walls. The prison began to change, quietly, from the inside out. Months later, when a state senator visited for inspection, she was stunned to see hardened inmates standing in line to shake the janitor's hand. One of the guards whispered, "That man did what programs couldn't. He gave them purpose." Word reached a veteran organization, and before long, Mark was offered a position leading a reintegration program for ex-soldiers and inmates. It paid well, but more than that, it gave him a mission again. On the day he left the prison for good, The inmates stood by their cells, tapping fists against the bars, a sign of respect. Rico nodded from his corner, muttering, "Respect, old man." Outside the gates, Caleb waited, now taller, confident, ready for college. He hugged his father tight. "You did it, Dad," he whispered. Mark looked at him and said, "No, son. We did." As they walked away under the rising sun, the camera could have cut there, but in real life, Mark's story didn't end. He went on to help hundreds of veterans and inmates rebuild their lives. He never once mentioned Delta Force in his speeches, just humility, discipline, and second chances. Because sometimes heroes don't wear medals. They wear old janitor uniforms, mop floors, and quietly fix what's broken, one life at a time. Clapperboard ending note. If this story touched your heart, if you believe heroes still walk among us, tap that like button right now. Comment, respect, for every unsung warrior out there, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story that proves courage doesn't end when the battle does, it just changes form.